I started into building God's way, and God put it on our heart. The thing that I felt was the kind of the biggest two parts of building God's way were stewardship and evangelism. And my history was that while I was doing a lot of casinos and bars and a lot of things I should have never been involved in, I was also building churches. I found it unique that I could have the lifestyle I had going on, and I was a church builder and architect. But over that period of time, we did a little over 100 churches in the Montana, Washington, Idaho area, and I was both the architect and the contractor on those, and not one church in all of those places, not one person, not one entity in any of those churches ever took the time to tell me what it meant to have a personal relationship with God. They were literally trying to get the church done so they could go do ministry, and they never looked at the people on the job site as any part of that. And I had, and I couldn't tell you how many, but in that many churches, I think it's probably not an exaggeration to say I had over 1,000 meetings with churches, and they all ended about the same way. We'd get through with the meeting, and they would say, "Well, Dan, you can go now, we're going to pray." And I'd go get in my pickup and be so happy not to be in that church anymore. And I said this hundreds of times to other people and to everybody I talked to. I said, if that's what it means to be a Christian, I don't want anything to do with it. That was the example that I was being given in that process. Is this what it looks like, then I'm really glad I'm in my pickup truck and not inside of there. I had and this kind of gives you an example, even in today's day. I had an interview for a church job back in Maryland late last fall, and today there's about 20 architects interviewing for every job, and it's really quite an interesting business today. And we were the last one to be interviewed over about a week period of time. And when we got through, the pastor said, "Would you mind waiting, Dan? We're going to talk a little bit, and then we'd like to talk to you." And that's really a pretty good sign that you're probably going to get that job. And in fact, they called me out about 15 minutes later and said, "We've made a decision, and we want to have you do the job." And I was very happy about that. And then the pastor said, "We want you to know that the last experience we had in building was just as bad as it could possibly be. We absolutely hated the contractor. When he would even get on the site, we didn't want to look out the window because it just made us feel so bad that he was even there. And it was just an absolutely awful relationship. And the only person that we disliked more than the contractor on this entire process was the architect. And that was a job they did about 6 years ago. And I was sitting there, and what God put on my heart is what I said to him. I said, "Well, what do you think they thought of you?" And isn't that really the bigger question when it comes right down to it? You know, that they're over there playing at your house, and you're going to judge how they're going to do. But the fact is, we will impact every single person that comes on that job site about something. And it's either going to be good, bad, or indifferent, but they're going to have some feeling towards your church when they go out to build it. And the other example, if I took it another way, is now that Andrew and I have been friends here for 6 months, but you know, if Andrew had me over to dinner tonight, and I go to his house, you know, if he judged how I did as a guest, that's what we do to contractors. You know, you're judging the guest instead of, you know, what part of it should I have? And I said to that pastor, I said, "You know, what would have happened?" And I had just got through telling him about ministry of construction and everything that goes on. I said, "What would have happened if your church was praying for them every day?" "Did you pray for them every day?" "No. We were so upset we couldn't even pray some days." Threw us all off, you know. And I said, "What would have happened if you prayed for them every day? What would have happened if your youth went out and washed all their trucks while they were out there on the job site, and they washed and waxed the guys on the job's trucks? What would have happened if your little kids would have learned about thankfulness in Sunday school and wrote little notes that told them that they love God and they love them and thanks for building our building?" And what would have happened if you had built unbelievable relationships with everybody on that crew, and how would God have been honored? Because God is not honored by how we do by what we do on our buildings. He's honored by how we do our buildings. He isn't going to look down and say, Dan, I just think the exterior appearance of that building that warmed my heart. I'll tell you, that was just great. But he is going to say, was I honored in the process? Or was I dishonored in the process of what went on? And that, I believe, is what we are going to be held accountable for.